Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this issue briefing of China's AI plus economy. My name is Guan Xing. I'm from China Global Television Network. We're now at a pivotal moment. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transitioning from a technological frontier to a core driver of global growth. By 2030, AI is expected to contribute about 15 trillion US dollars to the global economy, and China is expected to capture about a quarter of that value. In 2025, 87% of Chinese companies plan to increase AI investment, and more than half reported faster deployment. And China's National AI Plus Action Plan is accelerating integration into vast industries, the manufacturing, healthcare, finance, just to name a few. And China's scale, integrated policy approach, and a vibrant market offered a unique model for the global AI adoption. So to delve further into China's AI plus development, I'm privileged to be joined here by an outstanding panel of speakers, and they come from different backgrounds, from the academia, industry, frontier innovation, and global finance. Please allow me to introduce them. Let me start with Mr. Dawson Tong, Senior Executive Vice President of Tencent and CEO of Tencent Cloud and Smart Industries Group. Very warm welcome to you both, Dawson. And next to him is Ms. Yutong Zhang, Founder and President of Moonshot AI. Thank you so much for joining us. And next to him is Professor Gong Ke, Executive Director of the Chinese Institute for New Generation AI Development Strategies at the Nankai University. Welcome, Professor Gong. And last but not least, Mr. Hisham Al-Rayes, Group CEO of GFH Financial Group. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. So the session is about 30 minutes long, including our discussions and a very brief Q&A session. And just a reminder, if you would like to share your thoughts about this session on social media, please use the official hashtag AM26. And let's dive right in. Let me start with Hisham, because I'd like to have a global investor perspective. We're now in this unprecedented fervor of AI investment, but discussions about the AI bubble, the intensity of capital investments meets uncertain paths of return, also grow quickly. So I know you're an investor who navigates cycles, and in what areas are AI generating, tangible, measurable economic value today?
Thank you for having me today. I think we had a discussion this morning in the governance session, and there was a poll, and 60% of the people think it's not a bubble, and the opportunity to capture the value is still there. And I think that there is substantial value and returns to be extracted out of this new market-changing invention and change. And not only in AI specific, but also through the full spectrum from power generation to data centers to chips to technology, software, and capital market. So the advancements of technology require heavy investments, and we come from the wealth management and asset management, and you see the developments throughout the world, whether through in China or in the States or also from our region. The requirements of government investment solo cannot drive and take it to the next level. So you'll see a lot of the founders and companies, they raise globally, and when their capital markets are stronger, you'll see more advancements, stronger research, and higher delivery, and a shorter cycle for delivering return on investments. I think the opportunity is massive, and we are just at the beginning, and the ability to transform this into throughout the economy to create a true value in short period of time, as the whomever does that will be the winner. And I think China AI Plus is a true serious desire to deliver on that to win the race.
Right. You're spot on. China's AI Plus action plan is what we're going to zoom in now. Professor Guang, give us an academic, perspective on China's AI Plus action plan and how it shows about the potential of AI in creating growth drivers across China's economy.
Yeah, actually, the AI Plus action is a national initiative officially announced last year in August. So in this document, if you read the document, you cannot find any words talking about AGI. You cannot find any words talking about the chips. It does not mean the Chinese government don't understand the importance of AGI, don't understand the importance of chips. But that means the Chinese government lay more emphasis on the diffusion, on the adoption, on the penetration of AI, and to make AI really make values in production and in the daily life. So the main direction is to move AI from chat to product to services. So the goal was set in two steps. First, by 2027, next year, the diffusion rate of the AI agent and the terminal, intelligent terminal will exceed 70%, and by 2030, over 90%. So that's the goal of the diffusion in China. This is the goal of AI Plus.
Right, and let me turn to Yutong, leading an AI company at the frontier. How do you think about China's approach, like focusing on the diffusion and it does not mention AGI? And if we talk about the diffusion of AI, what are the biggest blockers or enablers of AI adoption in the economy?
Yeah, I think China is a very unique market. I think China market is huge in many perspectives. It has a huge manufacturing industry, a huge retail industry. I think many industries give us the environment to build a real scalable system in production. There will be like many data, many use cases that people can try, use AI to couple with. So I think this is one of the advantage in China market. And I think secondly is the openness to new technology, because we have seen it continuously, the pattern in several of the technology wave, in EV, in solar, in smartphone, in autonomous driving. I'm personally surprised 85% of the Chinese people think autonomous driving is safe and also can improve
really open-minded.
their lifestyle and productivities. So that's why I think China has like thousands of robo-taxi already, run in like tens of the cities. So I think this like openness to technology, really ready to embrace new technology, is very unique for China. And also, I think lastly, I think AI actually helps a lot on really deliver a hyper productivity tool for the individuals. Even today, we are still a startup company. We do a lot of the hirings. The resume that we receive are personal website already. Nobody actually give us the PDF anymore. They use the web coding product. People with zero knowledge of code before, but they can create this like beautiful personal website to applying for jobs. So I see this like adoption is from different layers of drivers.
That's right. And Tencent is serving vast industries, and you see the full spectrum. Just tell us how Chinese, technology and the industrial leaders are integrating AI and to drive tangible results.
Well, we definitely work with a lot of customers from different industries to deploy all forms of AI. When people talk about AI, I think we might tend to think of one big super system and give it a term AGI. But in fact, in reality, there are many different types of models that serve different purposes. And more specifically, when you look at the different industries and different enterprises, they are trying to use AI in every single function within their operation. For example, at Tencent, not only many of our programmers are using coding tools extensively to churn out features much faster than before, we're also seeing product managers, designers, accountants, basically, from different roles are using these modern tools to automate their work, building tools that otherwise won't be possible to enhance individuals' productivity. Some of the customers that we work with in the retail sector, for example, some of them use Gen photo technology, Gen 3D model technology to speed up their product design cycle. We help a lot of customers to use AI to get better ROI on their marketing dollars that they spend by better targeting, more personalized service that leads to better conversion. And not to mention, there are a lot of AI applications in healthcare. We help some of the pharmaceutical companies with drug discovery. So I think we're seeing a lot of positive energy to endorse AI in the current environment. One thing I want to highlight, though, is that it's pretty common in China that people are looking for good ROI. They want to lower the cost of using AI, and for us, we, as part of our cloud technology, we always look for optimization for the cost of using AI so that it can be distributed, it can be diffused to a much wider community, leaving nobody behind.
Mm-hmm. And Hisham, let me bring back your global investor perspective. Now you have heard about China's national strategy and also these business dynamics. What do you think about China's, AI plus development? And do you find it maybe, how do you compare it into global AI development?
Yeah, so my view is, one, it starts from the top. Yeah, so it's the discipline and direction, whether it's a country or a region or or even if it's a company. So in our company, I went and we assigned 10% of the yearly objectives of all chiefs that they have to see how to adapt the AI, and not to adapt AI as an interface, but how to transform that in actual efficiency. Now, if you take that example and move it to a country, you'll see the compounded benefit onto the economy. Then you look at the open structure of the China AI philosophy, let's call it. Then you have the non-open structure, okay? And that signal that the benefit, they want to see it to trickle down into the economy, into the companies, so it's a more of affordable. So it's not the benefit of that company, of that product, the return of that individual. It's not an individual, it's an economy. And this is very interesting. And they have applied that across the economy. Now in our region, you will see also very leading models in UAE, for example, and how they want to make the AI as a part of mandatory learning process in schools. also in Bahrain. Yeah, so different countries, they are taking different commitment levels. I think soon or now we are seeing AI becoming as a part of the lifestyle. So it's a more of the lifestyle and how you utilize that. But it's very interesting to see what's the end game. I think China is looking to create value throughout the economy, very clear, with very specific objectives across the economy, not just as a benefit of those companies and this is the difference in the philosophy, I think.
That's right. That's a very, your observation is very right on the point, because China is really integrating AI into various aspects of the economy. And talking about the economy, it ultimately is about people's economy and how we work. Professor Guan, in your opinion, how is China's AI push influencing workforce strategies from talent development to organizational design?
Actually, back to the national initiative AI Plus, there are six focuses are identified. First is to use AI to empower sci-tech R&D. And second is to enhance the capability of our production industry, including agriculture, and to increase the quality of our production, to reduce the carbon emission, and so on and so forth. And the third is to increase the domestic consumption. That is a very important choice to make this, because that's on the other side, China is to try to decrease the trade surplus worldwide. So we will increase the domestic consumption. Early this morning, I heard from Jingdong JD that the goods named with smart has doubled the last year. And the fourth one is to increase the welfare of the citizen, including education and health care. Talking about education, now in China, we have very ambitious program to embed AI, basic literacy, from the primary school. And also in university, the AI agents widely used. For example, in my university, there's about 1,000 different kinds of agents is used by professors and students to help their studies, their learnings. So that's the program. I think it is very important for the young people to have the capability to use AI. We don't know the future job, but we know definitely the future job needs the capability of using AI.
Right. And I think China is definitely setting out these priorities. And Yutong, you're in the industry, and a lot of people are comparing the environment of AI development between China and other, major countries when it comes to, like infrastructure or energy or other, key elements to drive the future AI development. In your opinion, what supports are proving the most critical in, scaling the successful AI use?
I think there are definitely differences that what we are trying to do. I think we have built a comparable state-of-the-art performance model, but by only using 1% of the resource of the comparable frontier labs. So I think the difference is from day one that we know that we don't have the luxury to just scale up the compute. So I think our development approach is more about we do a lot of fundamental research and innovations. So the founder of the company is actually from academia. All the technology of AI actually all from academia, very open community. And then we actually focus a lot on doing the fundamental research to trying to increase the efficiency. So I would say the efficiency of development is very important, and not many companies can do that. I think a lot of the research are just stay at the lab, but we spend a lot of time to making all the research work in a production system with all the engineering mindset to make it work at scale. Like Moon, the optimizer that we are using, we are the first one to make it workable in a large language model training. And also we have the linear attention, we call it a Kimi linear, which is faster than the full attention system. So I think we did a lot of things to make sure that the efficiency is really, really high. And this is what has been defined when you're developing the AI systems from China. So I think that from the support perspective, definitely infrastructure is very important. I think China always have an infrastructure first thinking whenever doing everything. They build the highway and they build the electricity plants and also the huge data centers in multiple cities. So I think that really makes the supply very, very cheap. So that will now, unblock the innovations from frontier technology. So I think that will be very helpful. And but the company also needs to be extremely efficient.
So efficiency is a key word here. Dawson, would you agree? Would you like to list some of the factors, the most important to scale on AI development in China, and how is China doing that?
Well, efficiency is definitely a very important drive in the China market. But in addition to that, I think one thing that's of note is that the China AI ecosystems or technology ecosystems in general is very vibrant. There are a lot of players in the model side compared to some other markets. I think the number of model companies, we have a lot more in China. And in fact, some
hundreds of them.
And they work together too.
Yeah,
right. A lot of them are open source, and two of the biggest IPO in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange this year were AI companies with very different focus. One focus on the consumer side, overseas market. The other open source, but more on the enterprise side. And including Moonshot, it's also a partner of ours. Even though we also have our own model called Hai. But the interesting thing is that there's so many players in the ecosystem with open source being a very strong driver that helps lower the cost of doing the inference using AI. We're seeing the cost of using AI in China, at least for the past 18 months, continue to come down. And for Tencent, we understand that customers want choices. There are many different use cases for a company, and they might want to use different models of different sizes for different purposes. So our focus as part of the cloud strategy is to provide tools, products that are model agnostic, support different types of models. I think that gives the power of choosing the right model for themselves back to the hands of the customers.
Right. And no one has talked about energy, and I'd like to ask Professor Gong about this, because energy use is really one of the crucial elements in AI development in the future. Do you think China is well positioned to provide energy much needed?
Yes, actually, there's another very important initiative relevant to the AI development is we call it the energy infrastructure built mainly with green energy in the western part of China, because we're rich wind power and solar power there, and use the wideband transmission network to help the companies in the western coast to use that computer power. So we call it 东数西算, that's the data in
West to
the
compute.
west and the computer power. Computer power in the west, but data in the east. So that's a big issue. That means by the end of 2030, a large amount of power used by AI will be green, renewable power.
Fantastic news. And we may have a few extra minutes to open this to the floor. And okay, please. Please briefly introduce yourself and ask questions.
Thank you so much for sharing insight. I am the Sayaka Tanaka, and I'm from Japan. And I am the founder of WAFO, which is mission is to close the gender gap in tech industry and also engage in policy recommendation. And I have a question to Gon-san. And I'd like to understand the level of the content of AI education in Chinese elementary and junior high and high schools. Is creative education such as developing product using AI, not just AI literacy, including in compulsory education? And also, how are the teachers trained or supported so that they can teach AI effectively?
That's a nationwide program for teaching the teachers, training the trainers to use AI. And also we carefully adopted the United Nations framework for the competence of teachers and students in AI. So if you could see, China is the first country to have the white paper on the AI application in education. So if you have chance to read that white paper, you can get more information.
Can I add to that? I think the new generation learns AI not only from schools and the traditional education institutes by having very free tools. In our case, like what we call Yuanbao. Many young generations can go to these ChatGPT-like app to ask questions, to meet their curiosity needs. I think encouraging the new generation to be curious and use these freely accessible AI tools would be the best way to develop the habits of using AI as part of the learning tool.
Indeed. Please.
Thank you for an interesting session. My name is Saeed Al-Sakri. I'm an economist from Oman. And I am curious, anybody can answer actually, about the impact or the negative impact of using AI on education especially and on labor market. Adopting technologies has always been also part of adaptation, has had negative impact on education, on economic activities, especially the labor market. I don't know if you have assessed or looked into that, and what was your conclusion, and how you have already adapted. And I'm very happy to see that you have a white paper for use of AI in education system. But maybe you have already an experience and have seen some of the negative impact of adopting AI and the impact on people's education abilities and so on, and also on the traditional jobs and the markets that usually everybody can do, and now it is being done by AI. Thank you very much.
Let me shortly answer a question about education, because there's a negative side. So the challenge is how to help students to use AI to empower their deep thinking, not satisfied by the instant answer. That's a very big challenge. And also talking about the workforce, the employment. By far, that's the early phase of AI adopting. The employment is increasing. Last year, the year before last year, and in the Chinese job market, there's deficits of 5 million workers required to have the AI capability. But along with deeper adoption of AI, some job will be replaced. So there's a nationwide plan to upskilling the workers to be able to use AI and to find new tasks, which is empowered by AI. So I stop here. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I just want to add some echo to Professor Gong's comments. I think it's not necessarily a negative effect, but I do see change in terms of the people that we want to work with, like new type of AI native organizations. So we really emphasize on having the people have general intelligence capabilities rather than specializations. I think that's like a trend because AI can provide some on-demand expertise in the domain. And also, I think for the organizations, the historical function-based organization structure will also be changed. So I think secondly is, I feel like human creating new knowledge at a faster speed than before. At least for the past 2 years, I sleep very little, and we have a lot of progress, and I think every day is like we're feeling that the learning ability is very important than the past experience, because the past experience and the past knowledge may get expired sooner than before. So I think that is also very important. So actually, I think the education system, if they can adapt to develop more general thinking and general knowledge, and also
To reform.
yeah, and also like a good, really good like a learning ability, really good AI proficiencies. We still think like we are still find difficulties in hiring rather than the opposite. Yeah.
I think we need to learn how to ask the right questions. That's a very important, yeah.
Maybe no time for one, maybe just, can you do it very briefly?
Very briefly. So last year what was noteworthy, in the green room, American supremacy in AI was celebrated, and 3 weeks later there was the DeepSeek moment. What's the likelihood we have something similar this year? How far are we from another DeepSeek moment with China?
Don't know. Don't know.
We will launch a new model very soon.
Their model is quite good. Kimi, this is a good model.
Okay, let's wait and see. And there are always new excitement on the horizon, and let's we have this open-minded participants in this industry, and let's hope for more progress in the sector. And thank you so much for joining us. And if you continue with this, your thoughts about the conversation, you can use the hashtag AM26 on social media. The session is concluded. Thank you so much.
Thank you.